This man stole $10 million. He didn't hack a bank. He didn't point a gun at anyone. He just opened Tinder. And the most absurd thing? After everything you're about to see, he's still free. January 2018, London. Cecilia Fjellhoy was lying on the sofa scrolling through Tinder profiles when a face appeared, handsome, well-dressed, photos on private jets, photos in Monaco, Dubai, Mykonos. The name, Simon Leviev. She matched. 2 minutes later, he messaged her. He said he was in London on business and would love to have coffee with her. Without her asking, he sent his location. 4 Seasons Hotel. Cecilia Googled his name. Active Instagram. Diamond Company. Seemed normal enough. She went. In the lobby of the 4 Seasons, Simon appeared from the elevator, just like in the photos. Designer clothes. The air of someone with plenty of money. They talked for hours. He asked about her. He really listened, or at least it seemed that way. Then it was time to go. Simon needed to fly to Bulgaria on business. Cecilia's heart sank. Then he asked, "Do you want to come with me?" Private jet, champagne, caviar. Simon explained his life. His father was Lev Leviev, known worldwide as the King of Diamonds, one of the richest men on the planet, a friend of Putin. Simon showed her a picture of the two of them together. That explains everything, Cecilia thought. That night in Bulgaria, they went to a club. They spent more money than she could calculate. And the next day, Simon paid for her return ticket to London. Cecilia was sure she would never hear from him again. Then her cell phone beeped. It was Simon. "I had an amazing night. I want to see you again." In the following weeks, Simon sent his location constantly. Amsterdam, Rome, Mykonos. He said he missed her. He sent good morning and good night messages. He talked about love. CCL went to see him in London, then in Oslo, then in other places. At dinner, Simon looked at her and asked, "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" It was a fairy tale. A rich prince who treated her with affection, paid for everything, and clearly loved her. He even suggested they live together. He said she could spend up to $15,000 a month on an apartment in London. It was too good to be true. And it was. Little by little, Simon planted seeds. He said the diamond business was dangerous, that he had enemies, that he needed to stay on the move so as not to leave a trace. That makes sense, Cecilia thought. A billionaire's son has to be careful. Then he asked for a favor, small, reasonable. He asked her to get a credit card in her name for him to use on trips. That way, his enemies wouldn't be able to track him. Cecilia felt a little uncomfortable, but she loved Simon. She said yes. The card maxed out in days. He sent money to pay it off. Then it maxed out again, so he made her an official employee of his father's company. A salary of $100,000 a year, with paperwork and everything. This allowed him to increase the credit card limit, of course. Meanwhile, on the other side of Europe, in Stockholm, Pernilla Sjöholm was also on Tinder. She matched with Simon Leviev. He flew her to Amsterdam for a date. It didn't happen romantically, but they became friends. Simon took her to parties in Mykonos, Rome, Ibiza. He paid for everything. Jets, 5-star hotels, bottles of champagne. Pernilla thought he was simply a rich and generous guy. What she didn't know was that her parties were being paid for with Cecilia's credit card. One night, Cecilia was lying in her London apartment when her cell phone started vibrating incessantly. They were photos. Simon and his bodyguard, Piotr, covered in blood. "We were attacked by enemies. We're okay, but I need to leave now. I can't access my accounts without putting my life at risk." Cecilia panicked. "What do you need?" $20,000. Cecilia didn't have that money. She took out a loan. She sent it. Days later, Simon needed more. Another loan, then more, then more. Cecilia was accumulating debt at an absurd rate, but Simon promised to pay everything back as soon as he arrived safely. And she had seen with her own eyes that he had plenty of money. He was going to pay. Weeks turned into months. The money never came. Simon grew colder, more distant. The love messages stopped. He sent a picture of a huge transfer arriving in her account. She rushed to the bank. The transfer didn't exist. She called Simon. He yelled that he had sent it, that it wasn't his fault, that she should sort it out. At that moment, Cecilia realized she was $200,000 in debt, and the man she loved didn't exist. Cecilia was shattered. She flew to Oslo to stay with her mother. But in the midst of her depression, a spark of anger. He couldn't keep doing this to other people. She went to the police, English, Norwegian. They both said the same thing.
There was no crime. You took out the loans. You took out the cards. Technically legal, morally monstrous. Cecilia went to one of Norway's biggest newspapers. VG. She showed everything. Messages, photos, audios, bank statements, months of conversation. The journalists investigate, and what they found was blood-curdling. Simon Leviev had been arrested in Finland 2 years earlier for exactly the same scheme, with 3 different women. He got out in 2017. He went back to Israel. He got a new passport, and he started again. The journalists went to Israel. They found his family. They discovered his real name, Shimon Hayut. Nobody's son, no diamonds. No company, no billionaire father, all lies. While the journalists investigated, Simon ran out of money again. He called Pernilla. He sent the same blood photos, the same text about enemies, the same plea for help. Pernilla had savings to buy a house, but he was her friend. He was in danger. She transferred $50,000. Then she started tracking the expenses through the bank statement. Simon wasn't running from anyone. He was buying tickets to parties in other countries with other women. Pernilla was furious when VG called her. Do you know Simon Leviev? Her name appeared on Cecilia's bank statements. Simon was buying tickets for Pernilla with Cecilia's money. They were both victims of the same man at the same time. Pernilla said 3 words to the reporter. What do I do? The journalists had the story, but they needed a photo. Concrete proof that it was him. Pernilla agreed to help. She called Simon, said she needed the money back. He offered a watch valued at $100,000. Come meet me in Munich. Pernilla paid for her own ticket. She went to Munich, and she kept the journalists updated every hour. After dinner at the Mandarin Oriental, when Simon and Pernilla went out onto the sidewalk, VG photographers got their first pictures. Simon looked at the building across the street. He saw the cameras. Get in the cars, now. The cars sped off through the streets of Munich. Pernilla, thinking she was going to die, asked to be dropped off at the next traffic light. She took a taxi to the airport. She flew to Oslo, and before going to VG, she took the watch to a specialist. It was fake. The VG article came out in February 2019. Aileen Charlotte was on a plane to Amsterdam to visit her boyfriend when his picture appeared on her phone screen. It wasn't an Instagram post. It was the cover of the article. She read it all there, sitting on the plane, trembling. She met Simon on Tinder. They dated for over a year. She had borrowed over $100,000. When the plane landed, Simon had left dozens of messages. These are lies. These are my enemies. Aileen looked at the screen. She took a deep breath and made a decision. She called the police. They said they couldn't do anything without proof of a concrete crime. So Aileen went in person. She met Simon at the airport. She said she believed him. She said the women were lying, and she spent the whole night pretending to love someone she wanted to see in prison. Every hug was difficult. Every smile was an effort, but she endured because she had a plan. Before leaving, she convinced Simon to give her some of his designer clothes to sell. To get quick cash. Simon agreed. They filled suitcases with clothes. He slipped a note into her bag saying he loved her and wanted to have children with her. Aileen read the note. He threw it away and put everything on eBay. The con man had been scammed. Simon realized what had happened. He called threateningly. Then he called apologizing. Then he begged for a plane ticket from Prague, where he was hiding. Aileen refused, but she also kept an eye on him. One day, Simon disappeared from WhatsApp. He was on a plane. Aileen remembered he had mentioned Greece. She checked the flights from Prague to Athens that day. There was one. She called Interpol, left a message, said that Simon Leviev was using the false name David Sharon to cross borders, and waited. At the Athens airport, when the plane landed, Interpol was waiting, bearded, fatter. But it was him, Shimon Hayut, arrested with a fake passport. The 3 women finally breathed a sigh of relief. Simon was extradited to Israel, tried for fraud, theft, and forgery. Sentence, 15 months, served 5. Released for good behavior. The women he destroyed are still paying the price today. Cecilia, Pernilla, Aileen, and dozens of others who never came forward. When reporters found Simon on the street after his release, he said, "I never stole anything from anyone. These women traveled the world with me. If their hearts were broken in the process, it's not my fault." Today, Simon Leviev has an active Instagram account, almost 100,000 followers. He posts photos in luxury cars, in 5-star hotels, wearing sunglasses, smiling. Interpol is waiting for him to leave Israel to arrest him again, but he doesn't leave because he knows. Out there, the bill comes due. Inside Israel, he is still free. And somewhere now, probably, there's a new Tinder profile. Sakely, Pernilla, and Aileen lost money. They lost time. They lost trust. But they were the ones who took him down. Not the police. Not the bank. Not Interpol. They did. 3 women who decided they weren't going to stay quiet. That's the part of the story most people forget. And it's the most important part. Did you know this guy is still free? Tell me in the comments. And share. Because the more people know who he is, the fewer victims he makes.